The confirmation of charges hearing in the Dominic Ongwen case at the International Criminal Court in The Hague was closed today. During the 5 days, from 21st to 27th January 2016, all parties and participants, the Office of the Prosecutor, the defense, and the legal representatives of victims made presentations. The proceedings were being held before pre-trial Chamber 2 of the International Criminal Court, which is composed of Judge Cuno Tarfusser, presiding judge, Judge Marc Perrin de Brichambaut, and Judge Chang-ho Chung. The confirmation of charges hearing is a public hearing during which the ICC judges will decide whether or not there is sufficient evidence to establish substantial grounds to believe that Dominic Ongwen might have committed the crimes that the prosecutor has presented before the judges. The purpose of the hearing is to ensure that fairness of the process by protecting the suspects from facing charges and going to trial without substantial grounds and evidence. Dominic Ongwen, alleged brigade commander of the Senior Brigade of the Lord's Resistance Army, LRA, is charged with war crimes and crimes against humanity committed during attacks against the civilian population in Lukodi, Pajule, Odek, and Arbok IDP camps between October 2003 and June 2004. Murder and attempted murder, torture, cruel treatment and other inhumane acts, enslavement, outrages upon personal dignity, pillaging, and destruction of property. Further, the prosecution alleges that from at least 1st July 2002 until 31st December 2005, Dominic Ongwen, Joseph Kony, and other senior brigade commanders were part of a common plan to abduct women and girls in northern Uganda that were then used as forced wives and sex slaves, tortured, raped, and made to serve as domestic help, and to conscript and use children under the age of 15 to participate actively in hostilities.
I now ask Mr. Ongwen if he is fully aware of the charges the prosecutor presented against him, and if he was notified the charges in the language he fully understands and speaks, meaning Acholi. Mr. Ongwen, you have the floor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Well, from my point of view, whether the charges are read or not read, is all going to be a waste of time. You may speak 5 words and only 2 issues are correct. You may speak 10 words and only 2 things are correct. The reading up these charges, whether they're true or not, is all going to be a waste of time. I've been handed out the document translated in Acholi, so I've read and understood it. Thank you.
After the opening of the proceedings, senior trial lawyer Benjamin Gumpert started presenting the prosecution's evidence.
For well over a decade, until his arrest in January of 2015, Dominic Ongwen was one of the most senior commanders in the Lord's Resistance Army, the LRA. The LRA is an armed group. It came into being in northern Uganda in the late 1980s. It aimed to overthrow the government of Yoweri Museveni, then, as now, the President of Uganda. The prosecution's allegations against Dominic Ongwen concern his conduct between July 2002 and December 2005. During that period, there was regular combat between LRA fighters and Ugandan government troops. But this was not just a civil war. between people in uniform. Far from restricting itself to attacks on Ugandan armed forces or other branches of the authorities, the LRA attacked ordinary civilian citizens who wanted no more than to be allowed to live their lives in peace. It ambushed civilian vehicles driving along the roads. It attacked and burnt the camps into which villagers had been forced as a protection measure because of earlier attacks. It looted the food, clothes, and other basic necessities which its victims needed to survive. It killed and wounded innocent people who had no interest in the violent power struggle the LRA was engaged in. It enslaved the survivors to carry away the loot and to serve as child soldiers and sex slaves.
In the course of the presentation of evidence, the Office of the Prosecutor presented documents, maps, recording of intercepted radio communications, videos, witness statements, and other evidence. Pre-trial Chamber 2 authorized 2,026 victims to participate in the proceedings. 1,434 victims are represented by Joseph Akwenyu Manoba and Francisco Cox, and 592 victims by Paulina Masida, Principal Counsel of the Office of the Public Counsel for Victims.
Mr. President, Your Honors, 30 years have elapsed since the inception of the atrocity perpetrated by the Law Resistance Army in northern Uganda. Victims have been waiting for the proceedings to start before this court for 13 years. In the course of the years, they expressed a lot of frustration regarding the long-lasting non-execution of the warrants of arrest issued in 2005 against the most senior commanders of the LRA. Some victims also articulated a disbelief and loss of trust in the proceedings before this court. Some victims have died. Nonetheless, the transfer of Mr. Ongwen to the court has restarted a process of trust towards the court, and victims have expressed relief and hope to contribute to the search for the truth about the events at the origin of their victimization and to have finally their voice heard in these proceedings. For the absolute majority of victims, except a very limited number enjoying a dual status of victim and witness, the process of application for participation appears to be the only way to provide an account of their experience which might be of relevance for the search for the truth.
Jen Adong, legal representative of the victims, gave a presentation on the origin and the impact of the conflicts on victims and the communities. Joseph Akwenyu Manoba and Francisco Cox presented views of the victims from 28 villages they consulted in January 2016. They addressed the impact that the crimes had on the victims and victims' views regarding the charges in this case and the expectations of the court.
Mr. President, Your Honors, victims want this chamber to know that abductions of children, engaging in hostilities or killing them, as the LRA did, greatly affects the family and social fabric of the families whose children have been victimized as such. This is so because African children play an important role in the family setup. They assist their parents and other members of the community. This unique responsibility of the African child has been recognized by the African Charter on the Rights of a Child in Article 31. Your Honors, many victims speak of poverty and hunger as affecting them right up to date, more than 10 years after these attacks. These were the impacts on victims of the crimes committed by Dominic Ongwen.
Mr. Cox presented victims' views on the responsibility for crimes, particularly in view of his own forced recruitment as a child and on the scope of charges brought in the case.
Your Honors, when we met with the victim and we asked them, and I quote, "What do you expect of us as lawyers?" The main thing they repeated was, and I quote again, "Come back and tell us what has happened, be it good or bad news. We hope, after hearing the solid evidence presented by the prosecutor's office, that the ruling of your honors will be that there are substantial grounds for each one and all the charges brought against Dominic Ongwen. So we can bring back good news that the first stone for justice to be done has been put in place, and that, as they requested, this will never happen again to them as a guarantee of non-repetition. Therefore, Mr. President, Your Honor, we respectfully request that all charges be confirmed. Thank you."
Crispus Ayena Odongo, Principal Counsel, took the floor first and described Dominic Ongwen as a child who was abducted by the LRA, forced to accept the rules and customs of the LRA, and commit crimes under duress.
Dominic Ongwen was an innocent child without the least propensity towards violence or lawlessness. And this has been clearly recorded by journalists, scholars, and those who cared to study the history of Dominic Ongwen, the child before his abduction. Therefore, Mr. President and Your Honors, if Dominic stumbled, it was all caused by the evil hands of Joseph Kony and his commanders, who left him with the devil's choice in many of the crimes he's charged with by the prosecutor before this court. I say Dominic Ongwen, Your Honors, was left with the devil's choice because in captivity and in the circumstances that he found himself in, it was a matter of choice between either compliance or certain death. Ongwen chose the latter.
Mr. Odongo further said that his client tried to escape numerous times and opposed Joseph Kony as he was promoted through the LRA ranks.
Defense will show that on many occasions, Dominic Ongwen attempted to escape, but was not able to escape because of the special attention that Joseph Kony gave to him. As a matter of fact, it is on record that he made contacts very early in the day with General Salim Saleh, the brother to His Excellency President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, and a premium stakeholder in the government of Uganda with a view to surrendering. This earned him severe corporal punishment and long prison terms. As a matter of fact, from that date, Kony never trusted Dominic Ongwen again and surveilled him in all his activities and put spies all around him all the time.
The confirmation of charges hearing closed on Wednesday, 27th January, with the final observations of the parties and participants and the questions from the chamber.